With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me tonight, actually, it's not my good friend, Matt. It's my good friend, Philip, man. Philip, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm the best number two there is.
You are now number two. You're my favorite,
That's right.
Philip. Yeah. You know, and I hate to say it because I just called you Philip, man, you know, and I mentioned to you guys last week, somebody took the time and effort to send me an email through our website to tell me that when I do the podcast, I say man too much. So
We all say something too much, though. It's just, that's just how it is.
well,
Can't please everybody.
I know, but I tried last week I was going to do better and forgot all about it and realized the whole show, I just said it. So Jackie, you know, if you catch me during the show saying man, then, you know, just call me out on that. Philip, you too, just, just let everybody know. So Philip, I'm glad you could join us, man. I almost said man. Gosh, I'm glad you could join us. I'm glad you could join us and hang out with us. We have a great time doing our stuff. And you are on Instagram. You are Bourbon Hunting KY. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
So people
that's
can
right. And
people can find you on there and check you out. I do have to say thank you to all of our sponsors. Of course, we appreciate everything that they do for us. We could not podcast and have so much fun and drink bourbon in the afternoon with such great guests like we have today if we didn't have our sponsors to back us up. So with that said, Philip, I always tell Matt, I throw it to him and ask him to introduce our guests. So do you want to take care of that for us today?
yeah, I can handle that. So today or tonight, we are speaking with Jackie Zykan, the master taster at Old Forester. And of course, if you are into bourbon and been into bourbon for any time at all, you definitely have tasted her stuff and you probably know who she is.
You should.
It's an honor to be on here with you. Yeah.
Hey, Jackie.
You guys are going to make me blush. And I'm keeping a tally. I'm keeping a man count now.
Damn it.
Now I have to.
No,
right?
I appreciate that. You know, the last time you were on the show, you were guest on episode 34, and now this is episode 119. So that was quite,
Wow.
yeah, some time ago, over like a year and a half ago. So, you know, we've advanced. Hopefully we've gotten better, but I still say the word man too much, apparently. So, you know, some things will just never change. But her last name is Zykan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah. See,
Sorry if I didn't say
that's
that.
okay.
Oh, you're fine. At this point in the game, I'm just like, whatever, just say it however feels right to you. Like, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
It's Zykan, man.
It's like we're going hiking.
We're going
Jackie
hiking
Zykan.
with Zykan.
It's
Yeah,
easy.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming back and hanging out with us again, Jackie. It's been, like I said, it's been about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So we've got some great things poured up, and I just have to say, I was so excited when we communicated back and forth, because I had 2 bottles, and I said, well, you know, we could do a third. And he's like, well, if you're in Louisville, just stop by and I'll have something for you. So I'm like, yes, I can do that. So I got over there Saturday, and it was a pleasant surprise because on our first episode, we got to drink the 1910, which it's
one of my favorites.
I'm telling you, it is
not
probably
my favorite.
It is my favorite. I mean, I'm just going to say that. I said that last episode that we did. 1910, there's something about it that I absolutely love. So when I opened that little bag up and saw this this 117. I was so excited. So do you want to tell everybody what you so kindly provided to us to drink for the show?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you really lucked out because you reached out the week after Derby, which is usually, everyone hides. But this year, the team of Old Forester did not have that luxury. We were off on a market visit right away. So I was happy to get it to you. But you've got with you the 1910 Extra Old from the 117 series. So this was the most recent release from that series. That's only available in Kentucky and primarily at the retail shop at the Old Forester Distillery on Main Street. It turned out delicious. It's very interesting. If you have regular 1910, definitely sip them side by side because they're identical except for the finishing period. So that's the one variable to kind of compare. The whole point of this one, obviously, was just to see what happens if you just don't stop the finishing period. And so we kept it going, and it's still going to this day. And I've got enough inventory sitting there. I don't know. I think it's funny. Like, I don't know how down the rabbit hole we want to get about it. Like right off the bat.
Let's just
go.
Do
just
it.
Go with it.
Just do it. Do it.
The whole idea of innovation has been an interesting one because I think every category of every product out there goes through it. I mean, we saw it, a really great example with craft beer, where it was like, how hoppy can hoppy get, right? Like, how crazy can we get? And then you start pulling in like weird, random novelty flavors. And it's like, why? So with the 117 series, that allows us to just sort of deconstruct the blends that we use to make the everyday Old Foresters, but isolate them out so that people can actually taste what I get to taste on a regular basis, like the tools that I'm working with. And so, I don't know, our team kind of gets a little cheeky with it of like, oh, okay, so you want something different? Okay, so we'll hold some back. We'll do extra old. That's fine. But then we'll do extra old. Fine. Well, then we'll do extra old. Like, how many extras can we go? Like, just to, not to make a mockery of it, but to have fun with it. I'll put it that way. We already make some of the best whiskey out there, like where do you go from there? Like, all you have left to do is just get silly, but not go novelty. So
sure,
it'll be an interesting year. That's for sure with Old Forester.
All right. So the mash bill, like I said, was 72, 18, 10. And Philip, people make fun of me, like I said before, Jackie, because I make notes and they're always good to refer back to. So we know. So this is the standard Old Forester expression, the baseline whiskey, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the only one in the Whiskey Row lineup that actually is following the moment that inspired it in step by step. So you've got 100 proof Old Forester that's already batched, fully mature, ready to go. And then we put that into a secondary barrel that's been charred 3 times as long as the normal Old Forester barrel. And then it sits there 7 to 9 months. So this is exactly what happened in 1910 when the fire broke out on the Whiskey Row block that we're on right now today. So we followed the exacts of it and it turned out pretty tasty. So
yeah. And if people don't know that story, they can go back and listen to episode 34 where we talked about that a little bit. And actually, when we had Chris on the show, I can't remember what episode that was. He kind of talked about the fact that some of these bottles, I guess, were kind of just discovered. Is that correct? I mean, kind of, they found these, what's it called? The very fine
whiskey. Yeah. We have one on display at the distillery. It is the original 1910, I guess is what you can call it. But it is that exact liquid. So it's the only pre-prohibition whiskey I've ever tasted. And I don't know that I was supposed to taste it, but you would taste it too if you had the opportunity. Little like, oh no, the cork leaked. Oh, shucks.
Yeah. What are they going to do? Are they going to fire you? I don't think so, Jackie.
I can't help it if I accidentally turn the bottle to the side and, some drops came out. I can't help it.
You are the master taster. Master taster. That is your job. So you got to know what you're, trying to replicate and trying to reinvent, right? So there you go. So you've got these bottles there. This is 18 months age, but you're saying now that there are still other barrels that are going beyond the 18 month. And so we could see the very, like old Fitzgerald used to do, like the very extra old Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
So we
I
can see,
mean,
we can,
I'm curious because like there's always a part in a maturation cycle for a particular product where it's too much. It gets out of
right.
whack, right? Older is not always better. But has anybody ventured into like, okay, so it gets to the point where you're like, the balance is off. But what if we just kept going? Does it come back? Does the oxidation balance it out? And so that's kind of, it's just sort of this like, I don't know, let's see, come along this
Yeah.
journey with us. I'm probably not supposed to say that all these other products are coming out eventually, but like, hey, sorry, the secret's out. Like there's still a bunch of barrels of it sitting there that we're waiting on, and we'll see how they turn out. I don't know.
Sure.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So Philip, what do you pick up on this one in terms of the nosing on this?
On the nose, I immediately, as soon as I stick it up to my nose there, I get just a punch of tobacco and oak
Okay.
right off the bat. And then I get like a sweetness of like maybe like some cherry, and then maybe even like a hint of a little bit of chocolate, like a little
Yeah.
chocolate note there.
You know, it's funny because I've got a little bit of 1910 because usually when I have a bottle, it doesn't last very long. And I was going to pour that up with this. So I forgot to do that. But you know, when I drink 1910, it there's like a banana note to it. And I know some people talk about the Old Forester having that banana note that goes
Mhm.
along with it. And last time you were on the show, I was talking about banana twins that were little Debbie cakes that when I was a kid. Anyway, yeah, I won't even go back to that. But you know, this one, I agree, Philip. I mean, this is a little more oaky than that 1910, the regular edition. I still pick up a little bit of banana, but for some reason, I'm getting more cherry on this one as well.
And
Um,
so you said this was 18 months is the age
In the
on this?
secondary barrel, yeah.
Oh, in the secondary barrel. Okay.
Mhm.
yeah. So this is now that's a good point. I mean, because we don't talk about. See, Jackie, I'm already hired on. Yeah, you know, here at Old Forester, we don't talk about. I'm sorry. You guys don't talk about. I mean, you really like age statements. It's not a thing unless it's like the birthday bourbon or the president's choice or something
Yeah.
like that, right? Can you kind of
Yeah,
talk about
because I mean, we use heat cycled warehousing, so it's
right?
false. If you put on there like, oh, it's a 4-year-old bourbon, people are gonna almost overlook it. It's like it doesn't drink like a 4-year-old; it drinks like a 6-year-old because it's gone through heat cycling. So it's just so misleading. We just stay out of that zone.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's where the warehouses are heat cycled, so you can actually recreate the seasons without having to wait the 12 months for the Kentucky weather. Well, in Kentucky, you only have to wait like a day or two at the most for the weather to change, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but
let's be fair. Yeah.
yeah, let's just be fair. Let's just talk about it. So, but yeah, but the heat cycling is an important factor, and it's a Brown Forman thing. I mean, you guys do that. I mean, I know other distilleries do it too, but it's just not Old Forester. I mean, Woodford does it, and I'm assuming that Jack does it as well. I think with their, or do they not?
No. So
They
it's
don't. Okay.
Old Forester, Woodford, Cooper's Craft, and early
Okay.
times that's still in the warehouse, even though it's not technically our baby anymore. It still hasn't moved out of the basement yet. So like that's what it is.
Yeah. But the cool thing is so like you said, I mean, even if it's a 4-year-old bourbon, I mean, you can drink like a 6 or 7-year-old because it's been cycled through that heat process.
Mhm.
And that can add the dimension of an older bourbon to something that's in the barrel.
So on that heat cycling, is that kind of just like just you all adjusting the temperature in the warehouse? Kind
Yep,
of like I
so-
know here across the street they do like the steam heat in the wintertime and things like that.
So it's similar, but I think when you say heat cycling, everyone's like, oh, you just keep the warehouse warm, and that's not the case. We keep temperature probes in the middle of the rick house on floors 1, 3, 5, and 7. There's 8 floors total. And this isn't structured up like a regular open air rick warehouse is. Like if you were going to go to Jack Daniels, that's what you would see. This whole concept of the air is going to get swooshed up to the top. The heat rises, it's science, like that's part of it. But we've created this sort of insulated cell every 2 floors, if you will. And so the most sacred part, the most insulated part of that warehouse is right down the middle of it. So we keep probes in those barrels. Once that temperature reaches 65 degrees Fahrenheit in October, usually give or take, depends, moving downwards. So they'll have to reach at least 65 in a downward direction. The heat clicks on. And then they come up to 75 degrees Fahrenheit minimum, moving upwards, and then the heat turns off. So you get literally up and down all winter long. And it just depends on the weather, because I get asked like, well, how many cycles a year? And it's like, I don't know what the weather, it depends.
Right.
Sometimes it's warm until December, like here we are. The weather is so strange here, but it'll go through at least a couple of times. All that's basically doing is preventing you from sitting cold and stagnant all winter long, and you're getting more movement out of the liquid into the wood and extracting more oak, but also losing more evaporation. So
yeah,
Very
that makes
interesting.
sense. So appreciate that explanation. Good question, Phil. So Jackie, I know the first round in podcast number 34, you kind of talked about yourself. So do you care though? I mean, I don't want to rehash everything, but can we have a little Jackie refresher? Just because, hey, 34, that was 100 episode or 80.
it was almost 100 episodes ago.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of episodes ago. So we've got a lot more listeners, and they may not be so inclined to be like, yes, I want to go back and listen to episode 34. So
But they should, because it was a good one.
It was I'm telling you what, that was just before you released the 150th anniversary, and you sent us samples of all three of that. And yeah, I mean, that was anyway,
That was
but
a good one.
yeah, do you care just give us a little refresher, a Jackie refresher, if you will, please?
I will make it quick so that those who've heard it before don't get bored. Put it that way. Hi, I'm Jackie Zykan. I'm the master taster for Old Forester. I've been with the brand. July will be my 7th year. And it is an interesting way that I came about it. So my background is in biology and chemistry, coupled up with a whole ton of industry experience, right? I literally started in the restaurant industry when I was 14, and I shouldn't say that because legally I wasn't supposed to be working, but let's go with the legal start. 15, I had a worker's permit, and I worked in the drive-thru at Dairy Queen, and I worked my way up through the dishwasher, through hostess, which I hated. No offense to the hostesses out there, I just wasn't one for it. A busser, a server, a bartender, a bar manager, a beverage director, all the way up. Started picking up side stuff, shaker for hire gigs, brand ambassador work. Built a name for myself as someone that would show up on time and that understood the process, both from a chemical and actual like production standpoint based on my education, but also from the bartender lens, from a cocktail standpoint as well. So when Old Forester first started blooming in the bourbon boom, it became very evident that it was the bartender's darling, and that's who was really driving the resurrection of this historic brand. And so they needed somebody that could not only be able to wax poetic with people who don't know what bourbon is, all the way up to people who are, trading it in order to pay for their kids' college funds. I don't know. Like you go the whole span of like the bourbon drinker that started with vodka to the person that's got like every historic beam decanter that's ever been made, right? And then also be able to speak to the bartenders about it and to be able to connect the dots with cocktail ideation and things like that. So anymore, I really have moved more so into the liquid only focus side. When I first started with the brand, it was still like really like flexing the cocktail muscle. I can only do so much in a day's time. So now my focus is more on new product development, innovation, and I get to, pick out and assign barrels that go into some of these products that people sleep on sidewalks to line up to get, which is incredible, right? So
Right.
It's been a journey, but that's kind of my short bio, I guess. I don't know what else to say. I never know what to say.
No, that's great. That's a great summary. And if people want to, dive deeper and go down that rabbit hole, go back to episode 34.
That's right.
And they can hear a lot more. So I have to ask you though, Jackie, the picture behind you, is that a cow? Is that a steer?
It is a Scottish Q. It's a cow of some sort. It's okay that you're having a messy hair day.
Is that your spirit animal? Is that a spirit animal?
No, not at all. It's just a picture. I liked it. But if I like sit in this desk right and like if I line it up right, it looks like I have the horns. So I have to be really careful. I always like slouch in my chair, like don't do it.
Oh man. I said man. Damn it. Did you write that? Yeah. Yeah, you gotta check that one off. I did. See, I caught myself on that one. So Phil, let's talk about the palate and the finish on this 1910. What do you get on this, man?
Before I go into the palate, I want to say there's still hope for me yet in the bourbon world. If you started at Dairy Queen, that was my first job too. So
yes.
Hey, my first job was at McDonald's. Okay, so we got like a trifecta.
See?
Trifecta.
I was
here,
washing
right?
dishes and making burgers.
Oh, they put me on the front line. They were like, "You're a handsome guy." No, I'm just kidding. I'm
So-
just kidding.
on the taste with this one, immediately I get like an earthy. It's almost like a grassy flavor. It's not a bad flavor, so I don't want it to sound like that. But it's like an earthy note, and then as soon as I took another sip, then it would like rolled right into like a cherry sweet note, and it has a very nice spice on the tongue. Like it really punches your tongue. Like it drinks definitely higher than a 93 proof. I feel like.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that because it's 93 proof. I did not mention that at all. But this is 18% rye, so that's not a surprise. You can get some, you might get some rye spice off of that. For me, Philip, it's like I don't want to say it's the exact opposite, but it's like a marshmallow campfire, and it finishes off with almost like some chocolate notes to it, which is kind of weird. Well, not weird, but I didn't expect that, because on the regular 1910, I don't pick that up, but it's got a really nice, the mouthfeel, it coats the glass so nice, oily, kind of a viscous, nice, thicker mouthfeel on this one. And again, I need to line this up against the regular 1910 as well. So Jackie, what else are we missing on that besides those notes?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It definitely, there's a lot of additional acids that are getting picked up in that secondary barrel and sitting in it as long as it has really, really pulled them out of there. When you drink it side by side with the regular 1910, what I find is that even though if you just drank the regular 1910, it's a lot. There's a lot of dimension to it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a robust whiskey, even though it's 93 proof. There's a lot of flavor going on. You sip it next to this one, it's almost soft. It's very interesting to sip them side by side.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing is just literally just extra oak. This is oak. This is the essence of oak. And it is not always this vanilla cupcake situation, right? It's spicy, it's gnarly, it's got all kinds of natural organic acids that are there on the woods that then, given the presence of alcohol that's already there, are going to turn into esters. So you start getting more into the fruit note zone, and then that cherry note starts to pop, the banana starts to pop, all of that starts to come up even more so because you're feeding the balance in there more acids in the presence of alcohol. So it's interesting, but it's a big one. It's got a finish on it. Like I don't know, everybody's like into the higher proof stuff anymore, but like for being 93 proof, it sticks with you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, this one definitely sticks with you. I would have never guessed, without seeing a label, that it was 93. It definitely packs the flavors of barrel strength.
Yeah.
So Jackie, I'm just curious because I keep picking up almost like a chocolatey note to this. I mean, do people say that, or is that something I'm just okay? Because it's that cherry pops out, and then that chocolate, and it's like it is like eating a bourbon cherry chocolate, or whatever you want to call it, chocolate covered bourbon cherry.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Chocolate is one of the notes, like the main notes that I get in the regular 1910. To be honest,
okay.
The main shift I think that was interesting to note that happened is that there was a really nice nutty component to the original 1910, this hazelnut note.
Hazelnut, yeah,
that
right.
Kind of fades a little bit in the presence of some of those more fruit forward tones in the extended finish one. So I'm interested to see sort of, does it get fruitier over time? Is it going to get spicier over time? Is it going to chill out? Is it all going to fall apart? Is it going to surprise us? I don't know. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm just going to tell you that right now, Jackie. So I'll tell you what, we are at the end of round one. So let's get final thoughts, Philip. What do you think on this 1910, the single extra old, only one extra on there?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
If you're in Kentucky and you see it, definitely
you won't see
definitely grab it. Yeah, you probably won't yet.
No, but if you do see it, message me and tell me where it is, because I'll go buy it before you. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is definitely.
Matt messaged me. He's like, "Hey man, save some of that. If you can, since I can't be on the show, can you save some of that for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll see what I can do," but I don't think it's going to happen. So anyway, all right, let's take a quick break. Let's get a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more with Jackie Zykan the Master Taster with Old Forester in just a minute.
Spirits of French Lick crafts their spirits using only the finest agricultural product that has defined character, following their motto, respect the grain. They lead the way in representing the quality of the Hoosier artisan distilling process while paying tribute to its inseparable past. By implementing best practices from those early times, combined with modern touches, Spirits of French Lick has created a truly unique place in the industry. Spirits of French Lick products are distributed throughout Indiana, Kentucky, and Missouri, and can also be purchased online through Sealbox at sealbox.com. Visit spiritsoffrenchlick.com to learn more information and make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round period session, whatever you want to call it, number 2 of the Bourbon Life podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me not as always, but with me tonight, and not live. And man, this is all different. We're not live. We're recording on Squadcast. Anyway, I've got Philip. Philip, how you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. We're just breaking all the rules tonight.
I know. I just said man again, too. I just broke the... God.
I think you're going to say it more because you're thinking about not saying it.
I'm trying not to say it, and I just keep saying it, Philip. Plus, I may have had a beer or so before the show started just to kind of get loosened up. And now I've had some 117 extra old. So anyway, you know how it goes, right?
It won't be the first time this show's went off the rails. We can handle it.
No, we're going to keep it on track. We got Jackie Zykin. We got to keep it on track. We got to be good about this. Anyway, so this round, Jackie, would you like to tell everybody what we have poured up?
Yep. So you've got pours of the 2021 Old Forester birthday bourbon, actually.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Now this is a 12-year-old.
Yes.
This is age stated because we talked about that earlier about the fact that most of your bourbons are not age stated, but this one is, and the President's Choice, is that what it's called? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Which just came out, right? Or some people popped some bottles at the gift shop, I think, earlier this week or last week or something.
It's one of the, so like birthday always comes out September 2nd because that's George Gershwin's birthday. President's Choice is like whenever they randomly feel like it, because they'll bottle multiple ones at a time because it is a single barrel. So they'll knock out a day's worth of like all President's Choice, and I'll do all the notes for them. And then they hold on to them and then just randomly like pop them out in the gift shop. I don't know when the next one is. Honestly, I don't know when the last one was. I figured they would release one around Derby because there's people in town and like they like to, release the special stuff. But I have no idea. I don't even know what number they're on at this point. I know how many I've tasted, but I don't know how many are out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never tasted it. I've never picked up a bottle, but it was funny. I think it was last week. Somebody posted on Instagram, and if you're on Instagram, you see this stuff all the time, right? So somebody said, "Hey, if I leave now, can I get?" And then somebody was like, "Forget it, they've already sold out." It's like, don't even waste your time.
It goes so fast. It's so funny.
It's crazy. So now the birthday bourbon, is this the same mash bill?
It is.
As before. Okay.
Yep. So all the Old Forester bourbon is the same exact mash bill. Birthday's unique in that, for multiple reasons. It's 1 day's production. It's usually like April, May, June production dates on it. Reason for that being is that we bottle it in the summer to have it ready to go for the birthday release. So when I say 1 day's production, I don't mean it was made on September 2nd. Like that's just the release date for it.
Right.
And historically it's been a spring, early summer birthday to it for the actual liquid, but it's all the same production run, right? And all of the birthday lots have to hit a 4.0 quality scale. That's as high as we go for our quality assurance. So they have to be flawless, completely flawless and perfect. And then after that, they have to actually get along together. So it's barrels and barrels and barrels get reserved for what could be birthday bourbon. But then as they go through their maturation process, they get tasted and sort of like, you cherry pick them, you know what I mean, to
Sure.
figure out which batches are going to make the most sense. So it's an interesting, very scrutinous process, but I think it
Yeah.
turns out
So,
pretty good.
all right. So, can we go down that rabbit hole, Jackie? Because I'm kind of curious about that. I mean, because this is 12 years old. So, obviously,
Mhm.
this was, and I got this bottle. I can't remember if it was earlier this year. Maybe it was. Would that make sense? Would 2021 been released in early
September.
2022? Oh,
I
I
know.
got this I got it retail. I can't
I was
remember.
gonna say, Mark, I remember you brought this bottle to the when we
that's
did the
right.
photo shoot.
When we
So
did the
it
photo
was
shoot
right
for
around
the
that
website.
time. Yeah.
God, I'm glad somebody's paying attention. Thank you so much, Philip. That's
You're
right.
welcome.
So yes, so it was. I actually bought this. A friend of mine just happened to send me a text message from Liquor Barn here in Hamburg with a picture of himself and one of the marketing people from Liquor Barn holding the bottle, just smiling. I was like, wait a second, what? He's like, there's 10 bottles left. You can make it. I live like 2 minutes from Liquor Barn, which is good and bad at the same time. And I got up there and there were like 4 bottles left. So I'm like, yes, I will definitely take it. So this is the first bottle I've actually been able to purchase, just because of the craziness around the release. So I was very happy to get this one, to say the least. Right. So Philip,
And
where do you
it's
get on this one? Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
no. I was gonna say, what a good one to find too, because we kind of bounce around. I know everybody likes to think birthday bourbon is a 12-year-old product no matter what, but it's actually been 9 years old before. It's been 14 years old before. It's kind of all within that range though, of 9 to 14.
Okay.
But we kind of skated away from it just because the batches were ready. They were ready to go. And then we came back to it with this one. And so I don't know. And it's still, it's so weird. Like, I'll let you guys like taste and talk that, but like COVID's been a weird thing. Like, it's affected the birthday bourbon process big time. Just in the timing and when we like have to make decisions on stuff. Hashtag supply chain, like everybody's out of like everything, whatever the heck. And that includes glass, and it takes longer to get things done. And it's been an interesting process. That's for sure. But I'll let taste your stuff. I don't want to keep you from the liquid.
No, but I got sidetracked because I was telling my awesome story. that wasn't that awesome. But we were going to talk about the barrels and the barrel selection process. So barrels are laid down. At the time they're laid down, it's like, okay, we're going to do these for birthday bourbon. Is that the intent, that when they're actually?
Yep. So I'm trying to think when we last went through this. Everything gets quality tested right off the still. And then if there's anything to keep an eye on, then it comes back and gets tested at 6 months. It gets tested again at 3.5 years. That's kind of when you start assigning and saying, okay, when you grow up, you're going to be 1897, or when you grow up, you're going to be 86 proof, or so on and so forth. And so with birthday, once those barrels are 3.5 years old, we already know that they were perfect. They were 4.0 quality score in the system, right? And so you just kind of tag them at 3.5 years, like hold on to these, just like set them aside. Don't batch them into anything else. Just like hold on to them. But then you go and you take a comp sample, a composite sample. Sorry, I need to like not abbreviate things so much. Did you know acronyms are a form of microaggression? Did anybody else know this? It's a thing.
No,
It's a thing.
Oh my God.
You should always explain.
Why are you being so aggressive towards us, Jackie?
I'm
We're
sorry.
We're having a good time here, man. Come on.
Yeah, man. It's just whiskey, man. Oh, so good. So OFBDB 21. Is it delicious? Sorry, I'll like go full.
Oh my God, there she goes again, Philip. She's so aggressive towards us.
We take a composite sample, and by that I mean we scan these barrels. We know how much is in them liquid wise, and so you can't just take a whole rick of barrels and take equal parts from each barrel, put it together, and go, this is what it's going to taste like, because you don't know how much is. You gotta know what's in the barrels. You don't take them out of the rick and weigh them, so you have to laser scan the barrel head to figure out where the liquid level is, and that's how you figure out how much is in there. So then you can go, oh, okay, well, 10 milliliters this one, plus 15 milliliters this one, plus 7 milliliters this one. That'll give you a representative sample. And you can see where they get along. And that's kind of how it goes. And then you got to figure out what proof to make them. So that, there's this, I was just talking about this last week too. And I don't know, I think I like woke somebody up with this statement because we were talking about where you taste these barrels. And they're like, well, do you just spend your time in the Rick House all day, like tasting barrels? I'm like, no, I don't taste anything in the Rick House. And you see these pictures, and I'm guilty if there's a picture of me out there somewhere like it too, holding like a Glencairn, like in the sunlight, beaming through a window of a warehouse somewhere, like staring into the liquid. And it's like, what are you doing in there? Why do you have a glass in the warehouse? We don't bring glass in the warehouse. Like, what's happening? You always bring it back to like a neutral, sterile environment to do it.
Right.
It's so funny, but yeah, that's kind of how it rolls. And then you proof it 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, every single proof point up to barrel strength to find the sweet spot of where it tastes best at. And that's what the proof is.
Gotcha. And this one is 104, right? Yeah. So different years have different proofs. It's just
Yes.
whatever those barrels. Okay. How many barrels generally are you putting into the birthday bourbon?
The past batches, I want to say post-boom batches, because originally, I mean, the first rounds of birthday, there were a couple that were like a dozen barrels and that's it, because nobody wanted to buy it. So those are like really hard to find nowadays, right? But they're about 120 barrels, give or take. And after that long in heat cycling, I mean, you're dealing with like 15, 20% left in them. So there's not a whole lot to go around.
Oh, seriously? You're losing that much?
Oh, yeah. We lose a lot.
Oh.
We lose, well, it depends where the barrels live, right? But in the hottest parts, I mean, you're losing 7% guaranteed a year. And then you hope the barrel didn't leak, right? Which happens.
12 years. Wow. I didn't even think about that, but oh, yeah.
I know. And everyone's like, why can't you make more birthday bourbon? It's like, come back to me in 10, 12 years and maybe I'll have more for you. I don't know. But nobody wanted it for so long. So
yeah. And now everybody does, right? Speaking of everybody wants it, Philip, what are you picking up? Now we can get back and talk about the nose on this. What do you pick up on the nose on this one?
So this one immediately has a very unique nose to me.
Okay.
Right off the bat, I just get like a strong, just boom of jalapeno pepper.
Really? Okay.
And I don't know. It's just like, boom, it just hits me hard. And then after you swirl it a little bit and come back to it, then I start to get like almost like a red Gala apple.
Okay.
And then a little hint of caramel. And then as it's sit here, as it's aired out a little bit, then I start really getting that oak.
Yeah. That's the thing I think, and I've had mine poured up for a while here, nursing it some. So the oak definitely comes through to me on this one. There is that sweetness as well, but again, the cherry just pops out to me for some reason. I don't get that banana note that I get on a lot of the Old Forester products, but I'm not really detecting, and I'm looking for it. You know, so that's one of those things where I'm like, it's Old Forester, I want to find bananas, but I don't find. I don't really find bananas in this one that much, but I find that cherry, the oak, the smokiness. I actually picked up a bit of like a leather on the nose on this one. I guess that's probably maybe due to the age of the barrels more than anything else. You know, it's funny when I take the glass away, there's like a linger of almost like a brown sugar or a burnt sugar of some type, which is really nice. I mean, it's like a cherry burnt sugar dessert or something. So, all right, Jackie. So what else did we miss on that in terms of the nosing on that?
I'm like, honestly, because who knew? Like, we don't get bottles of it. Like, everyone's like, oh, you get to have whatever. It's like, yeah, I know. But I mean, and this goes back to like what I was saying about COVID kind of screwing everything up. We're in the bourbon world. When you see it on a shelf, we've already known it was going to be on that shelf for 5 years. You know, like we've been working on it. We've laid down the liquid. We've held it aside. Stuff like this, we know for a while. We know what color the strip is going to be on the bottle. Like, we know all of these things. So what I was saying is that I don't even remember what 2021 birthday tastes like, because I don't just like have access to it on a regular basis. Try to get as much as we can out into the hands of the people. You know what I mean? So I'm literally like scanning through my phone, trying to find the tasting notes.
That's okay. Hey, Jackie, would you like me to send you a sample?
Can you send me a sample of birthday, please?
I'd be more than happy to send that over for you.
I mean, what I was saying about it though is that like usually we get at least between September and January to not worry about the next year's birthday bourbon. January is when we figure everything out. But with everything taking so much longer, glass taking longer to get here, and like the label gets applied elsewhere and everything else. The week after we released Birthday Bourbon 21, they were like, what's 22? And it's like, whoa, like we just released it. Like, can we not just enjoy the release of it? It's not even on the shelves in most markets yet. Like, they're waiting, and I don't know. So it's like, all just one big overlapping blur anymore for us.
It's like, look, can you guys just back up a little bit and just
give
me a minute?
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's so much. We've done a good job of constantly having something new and shiny to talk about with Old Forester, but after a while, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. But you have to actually taste it to remember it. In my mind, I don't have like.
That's okay. That's all right. Philip and I nailed it. That's all you have to say.
You got it.
That's right.
You absolutely got it.
We absolutely nailed it. So, we've we've talked a little bit about COVID, Jackie. But let's, the last time you were on the show was October of 2020. Yeah. So, we just kind of had gotten full force into the whole COVID lockdown. Governor Andy had closed us all down for a while, and we're all dealing with everything going on. Businesses were struggling, obviously. And it impacted the industry. There's no question about it. Can you kind of talk about how it affected you in your role with the brand, but also how it affected the brand itself?
Well, and by the way, I found the notes. We're good to go. Now I know what you're drinking.
Awesome.
Oh, like, nope, nice. You guys are way off.
You guys are way off. Damn it. That's okay. Thanks, Jackie.
No, you're fine. I remember this one now. It was the one that had so much red fruit to it. So you weren't so off, right?
Okay. All right.
Like, also a lot of herbs in the end, a lot of peppery notes in the end.
We haven't gotten to the palate yet. We're just talking about the nose.
The nose. Vanilla creme brulee. There's your burnt sugar note.
Burnt sugar. Sure. Okay. All right.
Pecan, maple, cocoa, dried strawberries, blackberries, raspberry preserves, dried herbs.
That's
nestled
all cherry
in a bed of dried herbs.
Oh, yeah. Well, all those fruits are just cherry to me. Okay. So when I say cherry, I mean, whatever you want to throw out there, strawberry, blackberry,
it smells apricots. Like red.
Yeah. Okay. It's whatever. Just, whatever.
I love it. COVID's been interesting, right? Because everyone's they're going to still drink. Like, the world's going to just fall apart and people are still going to drink. So it's interesting because from the alcohol industry side of it, it's been a weird balance. You saw a big shift in business going from bars to retail shops, right? So you see a big shift. And for us, that's a size difference. That's going from a liter size to a 750 size. I've seen a massive shift in the fanaticism over our allocated products, but I don't know if that's COVID or if that's just bourbon in general, right? But I mean, oh gosh, like, when we've been doing releases, we've had to completely change the way we do releases, not only to accommodate whatever COVID guidelines are present at the time, but also because everyone is just like, I feel like everyone is just one pluck away from snapping. And like, there's just this anxiety level that's so much higher. And like, when people are outside for extended periods of time in downtown, and like, it's just like people are like yelling at each other and they're like, you skipped in line, and like, you're cheating, you're doing this. And people are just mad and angry. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's just whiskey, people. Oh my God. Right. So that definitely moved into like, we do a lottery system now at the distillery for those releases.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's just, it's different. I mean, if you really want to peek behind the curtain, yeah, have we still been selling booze? Yes. Have we been running out of liquid? No. But for us, the things that have impacted us are obviously glass, the supply chain issues with glass, and aluminum is an interesting one as well. The products that have the corks, not so much, but like the 86 proof and 100 proof, those are aluminum enclosures. And when you see this massive spike in RTDs and canned cocktails, and then lesser available aluminum in the first place, it's like, we have the glass, we have the liquid, but now we don't have the caps. Okay, well, now we got the caps, we got the liquid, but now we don't have the glass. And now it's just like, so we've had inventory issues, but it hasn't been a liquid inventory thing, which is so frustrating. But
sure,
that's okay. the demand is there. Is a beautiful thing, right?
I was going to say, I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? Because people want your product, no question about it. But
That's
the fact
true.
that there's just limited supplies of everything that goes into create not the liquid necessarily, but the glass and everything else that goes along with that. I mean,
Mhm.
it is kind of is what it is. I think it's affected everybody. There's no question about it. But it's a good point you brought up about the releases, because last time you were on the show, I talked about 2019. I was going to go over and camp out. It was September 1st, and it was 95 degrees in downtown Louisville. And I was like, there's not a chance in hell that I'm going to go set a chair overnight and wait outside the distillery for a bottle. And then COVID hits. But then last year, I think you guys decided to release. And then by, I think, Wednesday or whatever, like 3 days before, people were already lining up.
Mhm.
And it
We
got
had a week prior. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. I mean, it got kind of crazy, right?
Well,
mean-
yeah. I mean, they're out there. They're uncomfortable.
Sure.
Like, tensions are high. They're like, look at people pay other people to stand in line for them. People go and rent hotel rooms down there, and then they take shifts so that you can like sleep, because you cannot sleep out there, and you're not allowed by law to sleep on the street in downtown Louisville.
Right.
So like, don't fall asleep or you lose your spot in line. And then people just get mad, and then like they're hungry and like they're tired, and it's just like, it doesn't brew a good scenario. And like, we don't want people out there. We don't want it's. I think a couple of people even made comments of like, they want us to have them line up so that we can like post pictures of it. Like, look how in demand we are. We don't want anyone out there at all. Like,
Sure.
why?
Yeah.
That does not, I assure you, for a brand that's made it 152 years, it wasn't made on posting on Instagram that there was a line out the door. Like, that's not why. So let's put that to rest.
You know what? I need to write that down. That's a great quote. I mean, that's a great point. Very, very valid. So yeah, I'm glad you said
and
that.
I think what happened with COVID was people were locked down. There wasn't really anything to do, but liquor stores were open. So, because I know there was multiple times where I went to, Liquor Barn, Total Wine, and you just see people with their masks on, just like moseying around the bourbon section, and they're not buying anything. They're looking at the front counter, waiting for someone to throw that Old Forester, waiting to throw that Old Forester bottle up there. And so I think that they didn't have anything to do, and I think that drove, the market insane. I think it just increased everything a lot faster than it should have.
Well, but and you've got to change your policy. Not you don't have to, but you want people to be safe. You want to do it in a way where everybody can be rewarded, and you don't want it to be issues. Years ago, I used to camp out for concert tickets down at Rupp Arena back when I was in school. And when U2 was coming in town, we had camped out for 3 nights. And the morning before the show, there was a group of people that showed up, and they rushed the windows, and like a girl got a broken leg, a guy got a broken arm. I mean, it's a mess. I mean, it was crazy. And then after that, Rupp Arena went to the lottery system for ticket distribution, because they had to do what was best for everybody involved, and they wanted to avoid those situations. So it's kind of crazy to see that I would never have in a million years have imagined that would be something necessary in the bourbon world.
No.
But it is. So kudos though to you for you guys making products that people want that much. Which is really cool. And speaking of those products, Philip, let's talk about the palate and the finish on this birthday bourbon. Was that a good segue?
Nice
or
transition.
What?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate
So,
that. We're at the end of round 2, so we got to wrap this up, right?
So on this one, I immediately right on the on the palate, I get a huge just mouth punch of caramel, almost like a Werther's Original.
Okay.
Just like, and I'm talking like going to Epcot at Disney in the Werther shop where they're making it fresh. it's that strong.
It's like fresh.
And then I get a lot of the oak, and I think maybe some of the tannins from the age, and then I'm like as a swallow, then I still get that hint of that jalapeno that I got on the nose, and so that may be the herbs you were talking about, but it is there as a subtle taste on the palate.
See, the spiciness comes to me at like a cinnamon. So I get like a cinnamon sweetness, almost like a cinnamon red hot. But I still get that cherry flavor, that burnt sugar that comes through on the palate. The finish just continues. I mean, this is such a nice finish. It just goes on. Those flavors just, it fluctuates between sweet and spicy, and it just lingers for a long time. It coats the mouth. My tongue is still tingling. The roof of my mouth is still tingling. So, yeah, this one's a really, man. I just, I'm a fan of Old Forester, but this one, my first birthday bourbon that I was able to purchase. I'm pretty excited to have this one. So great job, Jackie.
Hey, Philip, I mean, bravo. The first thing on the tasting notes that I have found, it's so embarrassing. Like, let me just refer to the sell sheet. Buttery caramel was the very first thing there.
Well,
Velvety
there you
mouth.
go.
Yeah, and they were very strong. And I want people to know, when I say the jalapeno, it's not like the pickled jalapenos in the jar. I'm talking like fresh picked, like, chopping up and eating like raw jalapenos. Yeah,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
not the pickled like vinegary jalapenos.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Jackie Zykan, the master taster from Old Forester, in just a minute.
Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and final round, period, session, act, scene, whatever you want to call it, of the Bourbon Life podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me tonight or today or whenever it happens to be that you're listening to the show is my good friend and Bourbon Life crew member, Philip. Philip, welcome back, man. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. This has been a great episode so far.
Yeah, it has. Well, because you're here, man. The
That's
last
right.
one that you and I did together, it was actually the Kurt Singers, wasn't it? The
Just
bourbon,
us two. Yeah, that was
the Bourbon King, the guy that supposedly stole all the pappy from which he didn't actually steal the pappy at all.
Yeah.
But anyway, but we had a great time with them hanging out. We hung out live here in the studio, and we did that one, man. So that was a lot of fun with the Kurt Singers. But anyway, man, I'm glad to have you back on with me. Having a great time this evening. You want to tell everybody who we have with us?
Yes, we have Jackie Zykan.
Good job.
From Old Forester. And for this session, we've got poured up the 117 Series High Angel Share Batch 2. It was released in November of 2021.
First of all, I just have to say, Jackie, thank you for sticking with us and not leaving during our break.
Was it an option?
She's like, damn it, did I actually have that option? Could I have just
there was
gone?
a choice.
Wait,
no,
can I just go ahead and leave? It's a Monday. Can I just leave and go? No, Jackie, tomorrow's my birthday. You can't leave yet. Okay. So
okay.
You got to stick around. We appreciate you sticking around here. So, but yes, we do have the High Angel Share poured up for this one. So can you tell us, Jackie, a little bit about this, if you would?
Yep. So the High Angel Share batches, if anyone out there is an Old Forester fanatic, you know that it was the first batch we released as part of the 117 series. These barrels actually come from remnants that we can't use in the single barrel program. So we just kind of hold them off to the side. Low yielding barrels happen for a multitude of reasons. Sometimes the barrel leaks. Sometimes somebody forgot to plug a hole when they sampled it. It just is human, whatever. Sometimes it's just in a hot spot. But whatever the case, these are fragment barrels that either we're just going to go into a blend just to get dumped off. But with that much headspace in a barrel, you're getting a lot of oxidation going on, and it makes the notes just so complex and so compact and concentrated. And that's kind of one of the beautiful things about it, that this is sold in such a small bottle. It's a little 375, but honestly, adding water to the High Angel Share batches is such a glorious thing. Like, this bottle will expand into 3 750s if you want it to.
Okay.
Just because the flavors are so concentrated on it. So this second batch is 25 barrels, I think, give or take. And when I say 25 barrels, they're like 10% left in them. Some of them maybe 20 at the most. So they're little slivers. The youngest in this was 5.5 years old, and the oldest was 7.8 years old. I did look this up. I
Nice. There you
when
go.
I
You got
do
the
these, I
yeah.
post them on Instagram just so
Right.
people have the info. Because like, I don't know, it's just like you want to know where your food comes from. Like you want to know what goes into your bourbon, right? So it's interesting to see where it all lived. So if you want that, if you want to be amused by my daily postings on Instagram, sometimes there's things like that have useful information on them. But it was a good one. I like the second batch better than the first batch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, I'm glad I was able to track this down. And again, I just happened to walk into Liquor Barn at Hamburg, and they had just put these out randomly. And it was earlier this year. So they were November 2021 releases. And I guess they just held on to them until sometime earlier this spring. And I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I'll take that. No doubt about it.
Now, Jackie, on this, I wanted to ask you, is this the High Angel Share? Is that the bourbon that was released that you're the first female name on a whiskey label or on a bourbon label in Kentucky? Is that this series, or was that just the 150th?
It is this series. The 150th did not get my name on it. Hold on. I have a bottle. Let me look at that.
Wait a second.
No,
that 150th did not have your name on it?
No, it's got Campbell's name on the back, as it should. I mean,
yeah, but still, I'm just going to say, because the last show we did, I'm going to throw it out there, because my understanding, the last show we did, you talked about this, and Chris had pulled like 150 barrels, I think, and had put them aside like 6 or 7 years ago, whatever, now 8, 9 years ago. But then they were given to you, right? And they just said, do your thing, right? So you did that. So those 3, batch 1, 2, and 3 of the 150th, I mean, that's your thing. That is you.
I did not purchase the paint. I did not pick out the paint colors, but I did paint the picture. Yes. Okay. But that being said, though, the 150th anniversary, I mean, that was really such a celebration of the Brown family and the company at large. Sure. I cannot argue that Campbell Brown's name should absolutely be on that one. But yeah, the 117 series, Campbell was actually the one that said you should put Jackie's name on that, like credit where credit is due. And so that's how that came to be. But it makes me the first female to have her signature on a Brown Forman bottle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Amazing. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you.
Definitely congratulations on that. And along those lines, let's talk about that. If you don't care. I mean, I don't want to,
Sure.
From your perspective personally, what does that mean to you?
It means that somewhere out there floating in the metaverse, my signature is in your form that someone can copy and put on a check. That's what it means.
They're going to sign checks with your name on it. Congratulations.
I mean, it's ink on paper that's glued onto glass that's holding some pretty tasty juice. So it's an interesting shift in your career, though, because you can talk about the stuff all day long. And in that moment, people know that, this is what you do. But it's so funny. I was telling the story last week to somebody. I equated it to like when people win the lottery and then like all of a sudden like your third cousin twice removed comes out of the woodwork and is like, oh, hey, by the way. So like once that happened, all of a sudden had a lot of people that have known my whole life that like didn't really know what I did for a living. All of a sudden were like, can you give me birthday bourbon? So that opened up the floodgates for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me ask you this though. Not from a personal perspective, but from an industry perspective. Mm-hmm. I don't want to make this into something more than you want it to be, but no, I'm just saying.
Can't wait.
No, I'm just asking from an industry perspective to have your name, a woman's name, on a bottle of Old Forester. I mean, do you think that has an impact in terms of the industry as a whole?
I think anytime that you do something differently that's consumer facing, such as a label, it normalizes it in a new direction. And so I think that certainly has an impact. I don't know how big of an impact.
Sure.
but it definitely removes some of the barriers. Humans are so good at convincing themselves of things and telling ourselves stories and like creating these realities for ourselves. It does a good job of removing those barriers in the first place. If there's people that maybe never even thought to entertain the idea of being part of the industry because they never even entertained that it was an option.
Right.
But at the same time though, like, I don't know, if you're going to end up doing something, you're going to end up doing it. Like, I didn't grow up being like, oh, well, finally someone said it was okay for me to do that. Like, I'm not wired that way. This sounds so bad, but I just do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it anyway. Like, I just, in a kind way, you know, I'm not out there like bulldozing the world, but if you have passion for something, you end up there, and then it just shifts. But if it has a ripple effect, like, great. If not, I'm not doing it to prove a point by any means.
Sure.
I just show up to work. But it's interesting. There's a balance there, right? Of like wanting to be present in it and acknowledge it, but not wanting to exploit it. Where then all of a sudden, because I definitely notice, especially now, like, it wasn't always this way, but now between February and April, nobody wants to talk about how we make the whiskey. They just want to talk about the fact that I'm a female. And I'm like, can we talk about the whiskey though? Because like, that's what I'm here for. You know what I mean? So it's kind of an interesting thing.
No, I get it. And that's why I didn't want to make it a thing.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you asked though. Like,
for you at all. So, but I just wanted to kind of get your feelings on that, where you were. And it's funny because I love the documentary Neat. Right. So we didn't talk about that last time, and you were in that. That was what, 2006? Was it 16 or 17? I mean, that was a long time ago, right?
It was right after I started, but I didn't get in it because of the job that I had. A friend of mine that was a bartender in town recommended me for it. And then I had to come to Brown-Forman and be like, I'm being asked to be in this thing. It's not like Brown-Forman was like, here, use Jackie. Yeah. So they were kind of like, I don't know. And then of course, like, oh God, I remember the premiere of that in Lexington, and like my PR manager was with me just hiding her face in her hand because like the scene, I don't know if it's still in it or not, where I was like making a pig squealing noise, like in Butchertown. And she was like, that's it. Like, what am I going to do with this girl? What are we supposed to do with her?
But all right, here's the thing. As a bourbon enthusiast, you know, stepping outside of the realm of the podcast, as a bourbon enthusiast, it was great to see you in there, and see you as a part of that. And here you are 6 years later in a role that I mean, people would covet. I mean, it's been an incredible journey.
It has.
So kudos to you though. I mean, congratulations for all that.
Just getting started.
There you go. You got a long way to go. You're a young pup still. You know, you're not old like me. Have to take natural breaks.
God. Don't take natural breaks.
Yeah. Let's talk about the 117 series, because we've got the sample 2 of them tonight. We'll come back and talk about the nose and everything on this High Angel share. But can you talk about the concept behind the 117 series and what everything was that you guys wanted to create that? What made that happen?
Sure. So I think the number one driver of it was having something available at the retail shop that you couldn't get anywhere else. And a good place filler for that for many years was President's Choice, which we still do. But we had to get our ducks in a row because, as I mentioned, you know, in the very beginning, like, there's innovation, then there's novelty. And it's like everyone's trying to just out-weird each other. Like, I don't know, like, what's the point? Like, when you have a brand like this that's so secure in the quality and in its mission statement and has been consistently, it's kind of like, what do you do? Do you get weird, or do you just, I don't know. So the 117 series allows us to kind of not change our identity, not change our mission statement, not just be weird for the sake of being weird, and yet still be able to allow people to really grow their knowledge and their experience of the different facades of what goes into a blend. So it's kind of like deconstructed blends, if you will. So in what other, if you taste a really low yielding barrel, cool. Okay. Well, this one low yielding barrel tasted like XYZ. It doesn't mean they all taste like that. You're not going to get a full picture of what low yield barrels taste like until you batch them together. Same thing with the Warehouse K expression. Everyone like goes crazy about Warehouse K because there's been a lot of single barrels chosen out of it. but you're not thinking in the rules of like, what does the game of statistics really tell you? Like maybe 90% of our single barrels come out of warehouse K because that's just where the mature barrels came from in the past couple of years. It doesn't mean that K is better than warehouse G or B or H. It just means that's what you're being exposed to. So I was like, fine, if you want to see what warehouse K tastes like, let's take a slice of every single floor. This is K. This is K for you. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's not like the most exciting thing. I read the comments, people out there in the world. I read your comments when people like post the TTB, like, oh, look what they're doing. That's boring. That's been done before. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But I think it's cool. I think it's neat to learn these sort of like, when you're going to construct a blend, it's not like 1 + 1 is 2. It's very nuanced, and you have to pull a lot of different, let's use paint, a lot of different paint colors out. And you don't ever get a chance to taste those unless someone bottles them up for you, unless you have my job. So I just want to be able to share what I get to experience because I think it's pretty cool.
Sure it is. Hey, I think it's pretty cool too, Jackie. You know,
Yeah.
for
Don't pay attention to the trolls. They're just mad because they know they're not going to be able to buy a bottle of it. That's all it is.
That's exactly right. They know they're not going to get a bottle, so they're just pissed off. So that's okay. Philip, let's talk about the nose on this High Angel Share 117 series. What do you think?
So this one, it takes me right to your favorite vacation spot, Mark.
Yeah,
This is Gatlinburg, Tennessee in a glass. It's just
okay.
I smell Granny Smith caramel dipped apples with the peanuts on it.
Yeah,
100%.
okay.
Like that's
Aunt
all I can get.
Mahalia's-
It's just
Aunt
a
Mahalia's
huge,
candy store.
just a huge caramel apple.
I get that. I get the caramel. I get the sweetness. I get that burnt sugar again that I got off the birthday bourbon. You know, that comes through. I'm picking up some kind of a sweet red fruit, but not necessarily like a cherry. And I'm not getting the banana again on this one because I keep looking for, every time I go in, I'm like, I want to smell banana. It's like, I don't smell it on this.
I don't know when they're releasing it. It probably won't bottle for another couple of months, but I pulled a single barrel for the retail shop. I'll have to like make sure I hold a bottle for you if I'm allowed to do that.
If you can, you don't have to, but you know,
it is the most banana Old Forester I've ever had.
My God,
it's called banana. It's the banana stand because when I tasted it, I immediately was like, "There's always money in the banana stand." Like I had to go straight for the Arrested Development joke. But you would love it. It's so good. Do you get dried apricot? That was the note that popped out to me on this one, but I don't know. Like,
see, that's what we need Matt here because Matt is the apricot guy, right? So Matt,
The thing I've noticed with all of the Old Foresters that we've nosed tonight is every time you go back, you kind of get something different.
mm-hmm.
Like I still get that big caramel apple, but there are other fruit notes that I'm getting that's not coming from like an apple smell. So it could be the apricot. I'm not sure, but yeah, every single time I go back to nose any of these three, there's always something new there.
Yes, Jackie, I wish I could say yes, I get dried apricot, but I'm sure if Matt were here, he'd be like, you know what? I'm picking up like an apricot, like a dried apricot. So
before next week, Mark, we'll go get us some apricots and we'll start smelling.
There you go. That's
we'll
how you
figure
learn.
it out. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So Jackie, let's talk about sustainability.
Sure.
I love your Instagram. And I love the fact, speaking of your Instagram, real quick though, I'm going to interject because I loved your pictures from the Derby and your videos. So you had a very fun video.
The fancy video. That was the best one.
Fancy video, but you are dressed up. You were Derby ready. You were there. You were all dressed up for, was it Derby or was it?
Yeah,
it was Derby, right?
Derby.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you're enjoying a hamburger and you're enjoying a little bit of ketchup with that hamburger. So can you share that with our listeners?
A lot of it. So, okay. I have a ketchup thing. It's a real, I don't want to call it a problem because I don't think it is, but apparently it is. I wasn't, but I probably was a pretty picky eater. Now I get to like make the joke that I always like, oh God, if you could just put these in like a video sequence all smashed together of how many times I've said this. I'm not meaning to be pretentious when I say it. It's a joke to me because of like what I do now for a living, but I'm like, I have a sensitive palate. Like everything is just very overwhelming to me. And like, I eat like a child, like most of the time. I don't like super pungent food. And so this has led to me eating a lot of, very like, think of like children's menu. I'm an adult, but like, that is my jam. Like that is where I live. Ketchup is just, I love ketchup. I love ketchup so much. And I remember even being in elementary school and they would give you like a ketchup packet for like 5 chicken nuggets. But I would insist on a packet per nugget. Like that is the rule. Packet per nugget is the rule.
I need more.
White Castle sliders, packet per slider. That's just the rule. Wendy's chicken nuggets, especially packet per nugget. So in that video, what you're seeing is what has been a lifetime of me practicing a clean swipe emptying of an entire ketchup packet into my mouth at once, because I can't spare the residual that's left to dip it in. Like, then you're just like, no, like you gotta, I've practiced this. I drive a lot. My family lives in another state, so I've eaten a lot of car meals. Like, I'm not proud of this conversation, by the way, but you know what? I will own it all day long.
Yes.
So
Thank
what
you for sharing, but I'm sorry.
practiced entire emptying of a whole ketchup packet per bite of the delicious burger at Churchill Downs.
Oh my gosh. And see, that's the funny thing, because until we mentioned that earlier, I did not realize it was an entire packet per bite. That's impressive. But yeah, I loved it because you're like, bite a burger, ketchup. And I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I didn't realize it was an entire packet.
No, there is a full technique. You got to at least just get the whole piece off of the corner. And then it's literally, you squeeze it like between your fingers, like the whole thing out.
There you go. It's like eating a chicken wing. It's like a chicken wing. You got to get the whole thing in your mouth and just do it. Right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's get back to sustainability, Jackie.
About sustainability. This is why there's a shortage in condiments, because people like me go out there
because
and eat a
Jackie wants 18 ketchup packets for her hamburger. But that's okay.
Just saying.
There's the aluminum shortage is from the packages of
it's from my ketchup addiction.
At the same time, though, you're getting filled up on ketchup, so then that helps with the meat shortage. You're not eating as many hamburgers.
That's right. So there you go. It's a trade-off.
Everything feeds off of each other. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about sustainability. So Brown-Forman, Old Forester, you're committed to that. I mean, you're committed, and you personally, I know, just from following your Instagram, you're a very outdoorsy person. You're like Matt, my co-host, who enjoys the outdoors and does a lot of things out there, hiking, exploring. Matt used to rock climb a lot. So you're in that same kind of a vein, and so you're very environmentally conscious, and your company seems to be as well. So can you kind of talk about that, what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So fortunately, Old Forester, we all kind of have a different space so that we can work symbiotically at Brown-Forman. So like the wines really focus on the water element. Woodford really focuses on the grain element, and Old Forester really focuses on the oak element when it comes to sustainability measures. So we have dedicated space at our distillery in Shively to do an urban tree nursery. And now I have to really explain this, because I know that there's a whole lot of like, I don't know if you want to call it greenwashing, like of people out there saying like, oh, if you buy this, we'll plant a tree. And it's like, that's cool. But like, then what did you do with that tree? And like, why? Like, did the tree make it? I don't know. Like, you follow up on the tree. I don't know. The problem with oak is that when we are utilizing a tree to make a barrel, that tree's got to be 80 to 100 years old, because you only take from the first branch down. The second you hit a branch, that's an opportunity for a hole in a stave. And obviously we don't want to lose our whiskey.
Sure.
So that being said, it's a slow growing entity, and oak is such an amazing organism, but with the demand on bourbon and also the demand on everything else, think new home construction, massive like taker of oak there.
Sure.
But with bourbon, you have to have that brand new, you can't reuse a barrel, brand new oak barrel. And so what we actually are coming up against, and this isn't just like the sky is falling, like I won't get into like the granular details of like all the different mentalities out there of like what we can do to save the world, right? Like whatever. My point here is that like we really are facing a very serious oak shortage in the future, and everyone listening to this is at least somewhat familiar that, you know, bourbon is a thing and you probably halfway enjoy it. So heads up, this is coming. There's already a pressure on it for us, and it's a difficult thing. Okay, so it's not just that there's increased demand and that you've got an organism that takes that long to grow before you can actually utilize it. There's climate change that's affecting how these things are growing. There's lack of awareness that there's even a problem. There's forest mismanagement that's leading to it as well.
Right.
So with the urban tree nursery for Old Forester, we actually go out, like I literally go out and I pick up acorns, and we open this up to all of our Brown Fordham employees. And it's not just limited to that too. Go to the White Oak Initiative. That'll give you all of that information. Like literally type it in your Google, White Oak Initiative. You can go out, collect acorns, and then there are very, very simple tests, float tests, basically, of how you can figure out which ones are technically viable. And then you turn those into the University of Kentucky. They take those and they grow saplings for a year, and then they bring them to us and we plant them. And this isn't to say like, oh, look, we're planting trees that will one day be barrels. It's not like that. We are planting trees to see how they're affected by this heat map that we are in Louisville, how they're going to function in urban settings, how they're going to function against naturally occurring microflora like the Bedonia mold, the black mold that grows on the outside of the distillery. That's growing on the trees too. How does that affect them? And we're literally creating this sort of small scale, how can we make sure that if we're going to invest in planting more oak, that it's going to be oak that's viable? It doesn't count. I got to be careful about that. It counts to go out and plant things. Good. That's great. That's a step in the right direction. But if you're not planting things and being mindful and collecting the research on what's actually going to be a sustainable option, then you're kind of missing the point in the long view. So yeah, we do a lot of work with that. It is a huge measure for Old Forester. And it's great because I'm outside in the woods anyways. So I just like pick up acorns on my way and bring them back. So
yeah,
it's fun.
It's like research. It's job, pay. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
So speaking of the oak trees and the shortages that are coming down the road, do you feel like the bourbon boom is just going to like increase that like faster, like rapidly decrease instead of like, I know 10 years ago, bourbon was not on the path that it's on now. So do you think it's really going to shorten that window of I guess viability?
I do. I absolutely do. Because like we see the boom and that Old Forester is growing, right? But it's not just that. It's every startup distillery needs barrels from whatever cooperage. And when people are going out at Brown Forman, we don't clear cut when we harvest oak for our barrels. We do very specified selections of this tree is ready to go, pick it out one at a time to allow a spot for another one to grow in its place. It's not just take it all down. So with increased demand and it's less expensive to just go and like take whatever. It's really important that it's being done mindfully because it is a really, really fragile system. And yeah, I mean, and when I say like one day there's going to be no oak, I mean, I'm talking like 10 years from now, I'll still be in this. I will still be doing a job similar to this, I'm sure. Like, and they'll be like, crap, it's not that we're out of glass or out of aluminum. It's that we are literally out of barrels. Yep. We have nowhere to put this. So what do you do then? You change the definition of bourbon? Well, that's a massive thing, isn't it? But these are things to consider. Like this is the road we're heading down unless we start doing something about it. Even if we put our best efforts toward research now, we're not going to see replenishment for another 70 years, right? So we're already behind. So it's really important.
Yeah, that's the thing that concerns me is where we're going to be and what we're going to be able to do in terms of the definition of bourbon. Will it be new charred oak? I mean, there's going to have to be something that happens, and who knows what that's going to look like. But I'm glad you guys are committed to that. That's very important. But you guys you're committed to, I think, zero emissions too, if I read that correctly, by like 2045. So I think you guys are one of the 2 or 3 distilleries that are really committed to doing that, which is important. So.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's company wide too, right? Like, zero waste for like our corporate offices even. So it's important. And let me be very clear, like I've only been with the brand a couple of years, right? Less than a decade anyway. This oak research has been going on for 23 years now. So we're many years into it. It started with Jack Daniels and partnering with University of Tennessee, and now we've moved it up here. And so it's pretty in depth though. I luckily get to talk about it and get to be a part of it now, but this has been going on for a while.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Hey, and I'm glad that it moved from Tennessee to UK. What can I say? Hey, Philip, let's talk about the palate and the finish. I don't think we've done that yet on this one. What do you think on this?
On this one, I immediately get a nice oaky flavor, and then it very quickly mellows out to like I get that apple and the caramel again, and then I get a strong peanut on the back end.
Nice. I get that brown sugary kind of creme brulee kind of thing again on this one. So
I feel
Jackie,
like right there, I was gonna say right after that initial oaky, it just gets really sweet, and this is a delicious bourbon.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I'm just curious. I mean, you said these are barrels that you were yielding 10, 20%. So these are older barrels. I mean, or they've gone through the heat cycling process, right? So
they have, yeah. They all have. These are just fluke fragments. Every lot of single barrels. So when I say a lot of barrels, I mean 31 barrels because that's a rick. So for every 31 barrels, we're getting 2, sometimes 3 that are too low to use for the program. Imagine you've waited 6 years to finally get your name on the list for a single barrel, and then we ship you 3 cases. Like it doesn't go over very well. So we do have a minimum requirement of value. But it's interesting. And yeah, they're scattered all over the warehouse, and they're like, please clean your room. Get them out of here. We're going to dump them in 86, or they got to go somewhere. And I'm like, no, save them, please. So, yeah.
Well, Jackie, we are at the end of the podcast. We've had a great time. This has been a lot of fun. So let me ask you this before we close it out. Talking back about the documentary Neat, you just kind of had started with Old Forester. Did you ever think back then that you would be where you are now?
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
I knew. Yeah, I knew.
All right.
I had set a point to get to at that point in my career, because I was already with Brown-Forman, right?
Right.
Barely, like a couple months in, like barely so, and had already established at that point that I was going to be in this role and I was going to do whatever I needed to do. That sounds very ruthless. Like I was going to do whatever it took. Like, no, that I was going to work to get this position.
Sure.
So I knew, and I made it happen. And now I'm like, now what do I do? Right.
Yeah. So
now where do we go?
I was going to say, so that's a great answer. And I'm so happy to hear you say that. No, I mean, it's awesome that you knew what you wanted and you went out and you made it happen. There's not a lot of people in this world that do that. People wish for things that happen in their life, but people don't always want to do the work to make that happen. So but you have, which is cool. So following up on that, what does the future look like for Jackie?
I don't know. I do not know. And I honestly, I mean, I know where I want to be. I know what I like doing now that I've had like a little bit more time to spend on this side of the business. I know what elements of it make me happy, but I also know that there's certain pieces of it that are less fun, that just have to be there. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. You never know. But you're exactly right, though. I think a lot of people, they tell themselves a story of like all the reasons why not. And I just encourage everyone listening that the second you start to notice, just get good at noticing it first, because that's the first step, is notice that you're in your own way. And the second you notice it, go, no, really, like, why not? Why can't I? Like,
right.
Oh, well, I could leave, but I won't make as much, or I'll leave and I'll do this, or I'll do this, but it won't be. Why can't it be that and then some? Why can't it? Because it can. So just do it.
That's great advice. I mean, honestly, it really is. So no, it is.
I agree. It's very refreshing to hear that, because I feel like that too a lot of times. And today it just seems like nobody cares anymore. I mean, if you go to a restaurant or a store or anything, there's no customer service. Nobody cares. So it is very refreshing to hear just go after it and get it. If you want it, it's there. Just go get it.
Yeah, you're literally the one and I know it probably might sound like pretentious or like privileged for me to say that, but like I did not come from the bourbon world. I'm not from a bourbon family. I'm not even from Kentucky. I was working the Dairy Queen drive-through, and just kept on going and going and going and going and going. You show up on time. The world is run by those who show up. So just keep that in mind.
That's another great quote.
See, all the quotes. Look at all this.
Damn. Jackie, you're killing it. This is awesome. No, I appreciate that. All right. So we're at the end of round 3. So final thoughts, Jackie. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Apologies for all those listening that have not had a chance to taste the beautiful liquids that were sipped on this episode. But mark my words, there's more coming. Just keep an eye out. Sign up for the email list. I know I feel like, and if you act now, you can.
Yeah, right.
Like, no. It's legitimately
we'll take
that's
one payment off. Only 3 payments of $49.
Right, exactly. Like we're on like shopping network some sort here. No, really though. Sign up. Go to oldforester.com and sign up for the emails. That's where they announce when things are coming out at the distillery. That's how everyone's like, how did you know? Like, how did people even know to be there? Like they get the emails. So that's it. And if you want to watch me hopefully not fall off a mountain in the next couple of weeks, follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, it's just at Jackie Zykan, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm just pouring up another round for myself. So
just to make sure.
Just making sure it tastes the same as the first 2 that I poured up. So yeah, just disregard me. Philip, how about you, man? Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, it's been a pleasure. So thank you for joining us tonight. And I have to know, what's the yeah man tally?
I stopped after 8. I stopped 8. After 8. That's really not bad.
8.
That's probably that's ballpark of your low end. So yeah, you're good. I think you did good tonight.
I appreciate.
I counted when you were like, when you would say it and then be like, I just said man. That was 2 because you said man again. So like think of it that way.
Okay. All right. So I've done better tonight. So
you did great.
Those of you out there listening that don't like it when I say man, please understand that I'm trying to do better, be better.
You're getting another email this week.
I know, man. I just said man again. God.
9. There it is.
Anyway. All right. So,
awesome.
Hey, I'm going to thank our sponsors. I'm going to thank Jackie first because this has been so much fun. I really appreciate it. It's fun when we have a guest on for the second time. We've only done it a few times. Most of the time it is, we have a format of what we do. We talk about the person, we talk about the brand, we talk about whatever, so we have a kind of a thing we run through, which is what we did the first time, episode 34. So when we have a guest on for the second time, it's always a new experience. And for me too, as a host, to find things to talk about that aren't normal, from our standard procedure. So I appreciate you being with us, and I appreciate you sharing these your thoughts and things that are going on with the distillery and with you personally. It's been a lot of fun, Jackie. So, and thank you so much for the 1910. Matt's not going to get any of that. I mean, I hate to tell him, but it's not going to happen. So I can't wait for the extra or the very extra old 1910 Old Forester. I'm looking forward to that. We'll have you back on. It won't be another year and a half. I promise. We'll do it sooner than that. So with that said, I want to thank all our sponsors. We really appreciate them, appreciate everything they do for us. Again, like I said before, if we didn't have them, we could not do what we do. So we appreciate all their support. We appreciate our listeners as well. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for your support as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can always reach out to us on Instagram at The Bourbon Life, or on Facebook. We have our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. If you'd like to join, please do so. If you want to leave us a comment or a review, we'd appreciate that. Also, you can email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for the show, other than the fact that I say man too much, if you're going to tell me that, just don't even email me. But beyond that, we appreciate all you all listening. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the Bourbon Life.
Whether it's rye, sour mash Tennessee whiskey, or bourbon, Davidson Reserve has something delicious to offer any whiskey lover's palate. Pick up a bottle of one of our award-winning Davidson Reserve whiskeys from your local retailer today. Visit www.davidsonreserve.com for more information. And cheers to drinking local.